All right. So on today's show, we're going to talk about really at the end of the day, what improvements to make to a rehab or wholetail and what improvements are a waste of money. And Michael has definitely.
I have a lot to say about this topic.
I'm like, this is like, you've been waiting for this for a while. So let's just get into it, man. What we're going to talk about, let's do it when we're doing a rehab deal and then a wholetail deal, because those are really the two ways you're going to be quote unquote flipping houses.
Well, for both of them, it's similar, right? Because a wholesale deal is probably going to be in better shape. But for 4 years, all I did was gut renovate everything, right? I really wanted to be Tarek El Moussa from Flip or Flop. That was my dream. Ironically, Tarek is now wholesaling like a mother, so that's interesting. But it was one of the hardest things that I had to do. I'd say of a lot of difficult decisions I had to make. Deciding what to do and what not to do was one of the hardest, because we all think that we're going to get into this house and every house is going to be a disaster and every house we're going to need to do everything. And there are still guys, and I was sort of that guy for a while, who said, I want to do everything, right? If something isn't great, I want to get rid of it. But the problem comes because there are houses, let's say there's a kid, let's say I remember the first house I did, 288 Travis Avenue in Elmont. It had a bathroom, it had two bathrooms. One bathroom was a disaster, and one bathroom was like not bad. It was probably done 10 years before I bought it.
Livable,
not bad. And this was a big struggle for me. Should I keep it? And I remember I bought another house. I forgot the address, where the kitchen wasn't bad. And that was a struggle of what to do and what do you do on the outside and the inside. So in the end, after many, many years of going through this, I came up with, I think, a basic 6-point guide to what makes a house sell. And really what I shifted from was from those first 4 years of saying to myself that I want to do everything, to finally learning. It took me a good 4 or 5 years to learn this, really figuring out that you don't want to do everything. You want to do as little as possible to make a profit, right? And I'm not saying cut corners and do a crappy job. I'm saying that there are a lot of things in a house, and there are plenty of people that I wholesale houses to who do not agree with me, and they feel I need to put chair rail and I need to put extra fancy moldings and these things sell. And in some markets it's important, but in most markets it's not. And understanding your market and understanding the comparable sales, the comps that you are going to sell to, is a big factor, right? Obviously, in a million, I listing a house this weekend for $2 million. That's an area where you really need to do a much higher level of finished work, right? But most of my houses are going for $400,000 or $500,000. That's an area where you can do less. So if you want, I had a checklist. I don't have it written down, but I think I remember it. So if you want me to, I will tell you the things that sell a house. You want me to go through them right now?
I would love that. Yes.
Okay. So number one is the kitchen. That's obvious, right? Most of the time, is if there's a female involved in the buying decision, she is going to be the more influential person in that decision. And the kitchen is a place that not all females, but a lot of females are going to spend a lot of time in. And the kitchen is really important. So let's just go through the list, and then we can go through specifics. Kitchen is important. Second to the bathrooms, right? That's really important. So kitchen and bathrooms are probably the two most important things. And if there is ever a situation, by the way, your bathroom door is open behind you. I'm looking right into your toilet. But if there's ever a situation where you need to decide what to spend money on, I would say kitchen and bathrooms are the first two places you should go. Okay. The third thing is the flooring. Okay, flooring is important too. So it's not hard to get nice flooring, right? You don't have to put hardwood flooring everywhere, but certainly a decent laminate, a thick laminate, at least 12 millimeter laminate that looks like wood, it goes a long way. Decent tiling goes a long way. The fourth is the walls. So when I mean walls, I mean there shouldn't be holes in the walls, and it should probably be freshly painted. And the fifth are all the systems, right? So all the systems have to work. The plumbing system has to work. The electrical has to work. Now, again, we can get into the weeds on everyone is, but for example, on plumbing, so I used to think that everybody wanted gas boilers. Everyone. And I remember bought a house, had a brand new oil boiler. I'm talking the thing still had the tags on it. I could eat off it. It was so clean. And it was a big struggle for me to say, am I going to be crazy and spend $3,000, $4,000 to convert this to gas, or should I leave it? And I discovered that, well, some people want gas. Some people are fine with oil in my area. And there are plenty of areas in where I buy where there is no gas. So
all the time.
So the system has to work. So the plumbing has to work, the electrical has to work. And like there's guys who every house they buy, even like these small capes that I buy, they would upgrade to 200 amps. And they figure everybody who buys a house wants a 200 amp box. Most people don't even know what the hell that is. And 100 amps is fine for a small house, a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. So, but it has to be okay. Like it can't have fuse box. I bought houses with fuse boxes in it. You had to put in circuit breakers. So there's kitchen, bathrooms, flooring, walls, systems, and the fifth is the exterior. So I take that as a whole. And I used to think everything needed a new roof. It's not true. If the roof is not leaking, you very often don't have to replace it, but the roof has to be leak-free. And the exterior fascia, whatever that is, whether it's aluminum siding, whether it's vinyl siding, brick, whatever it is, it has to look okay. It should be the same color, but it doesn't need to be brand new, right? I know guys who will reside every single house they buy. I think they're stupid, right? I bought tons of houses with like aluminum siding, right? You click it, you bang on it, and it sounds like metal.
You can paint that shit.
Exactly. And if it sounds like metal, then it's aluminum. You paint it a decent color, it looks fine. So those are my 6 checklists. And if you do those 6 things, I believe, if the exterior fascia looks decent, you paint it or it looks okay, and the roof is okay, and all those things are good, the kitchen and bathrooms are new, the flooring looks clean, and very often you can refinish wood. You're going to sell that house for close to the ARV. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't other things you can do, right? There are guys that do their best to go buy fancy light fixtures, and they'll put, like I said, moldy chair rails and all kinds of cool things. That's fine, but you're not going to get that much out of spending that money. So those are my 6 things that I look for on every house, and in my opinion, right? So in each of those things, we can go through every single thing that you can do, but I believe you should try and save as much money as possible on them. And when you get feedback from people, then you can come back and change it, right? So I had a house in Malvern once. I didn't do the kitchen. It was borderline. And I got a lot of feedback that the issue was the kitchen. So guess what? I redid the kitchen cabinets. That's what I did. I even was able to save the countertops and use them. So you could always do more work, but I have completely switched from the first 4 years when I did this, 2013 through 2017, of let me do everything, because I figured everybody who can say no to my house? It's so beautiful, which is stupid thinking. Anybody can say no to your house. To now, it's like, where can I get away with leaving something that's not so bad that maybe somebody doesn't care about? And what shifted me was realizing, after doing so many of these gut renovation, these Tarek Musa open concept, I'm going to be the greatest house in the world thinking, was that a lot of times after people bought it, the first thing they did was undo what I did. So I used to buy capes and take out the walls, make it open concept. You walk in, you see everything. It made it look big. It was pretty. And I remember guy bought it, and he goes, first thing I'm doing, I'm putting a wall up in the kitchen. I'm like, I spent like $4,000 getting permits and putting up posts, putting up a header. And he's like, oh, I cook with curry. He was an Indian guy. And I don't want to stick up the house, so I'm going to put up a wall here with a door. Another person told me I'm putting up a wall because I need more cabinets. I want to put cabinets on the wall. And so everything that you think personally is going to make it look better, to somebody else can make it look worse. So it's better to do less, and you can always do more. But those are my
that is so good. Let me share a quick case study on that.
We started in the limit. I can go every one of those 6 things. I can give you examples of how you can save money and what you should and should not do in that.
We're going to get right into it.
All that.
So quick case study. This is a real deal out in Southern Cal. So it was a condo. So obviously the exterior and everything is null and void. But I could have rehabbed it. Like when I say rehabbed it, I could have went full blown, sledgehammer style on this thing. So this is exactly, I'll tell you the scope of work and the budget. Right? We took the ugly ass countertops, because kitchens sell houses, put quartz. We took the ugly ass appliances, stuck in stainless steel. We took the ugly ass vanity in the bathroom, quartz. We took the ugly door handles, switched the door handles out, scraped the popcorn ceilings, and staged it. Fucking thing is going to be the highest selling condo in the complex, most likely ever. So anyway, I didn't need to put a fucking lot of work into that thing. And it looks fucking sick. It looks sick. And honestly, it's not even we didn't even put that much money into it. And because the things that you said, I want to get into this in a minute, that is what sells the property. I could have ripped out the floors, even though the floors are fine, and put in luxury tile. It's just, that does not. Let's get into the bathrooms, because this is where I've made this mistake many times. What
Sure.
makes a bathroom sellable? Obviously, if it's got, grandma style, tubs
So
and
the bathrooms really consist of only a couple of things, right? There's tile, and there are fixtures. Um, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. So a couple of things in my area, there's a lot of houses that were built in the 40s and the 50s, and the 60s where they did beautiful tile work, but they are horrible colors. I'm talking about yellow tile, pink tile, green tile, and blue tile. That screams old. What I discovered, it took me years to figure this out, is that if the tile work is good, and you don't have to open the tile work, so if the plumbing is good, also the tubs sometimes match. So the tub will be yellow, tub will be pink, tub will be blue. I can reglaze that in
yeah,
all the walls and the tub for a very reasonable amount. $600, it's $500, depending on the size. Making it white, and then I'll usually put a new floor in, because if you reglaze the flooring, somebody can scrape that off and it'll look bad. The walls are not getting scraped, so I'll put in. But how much floor are we talking about in a bathroom? We're talking about 50 square feet, because there's toilet and there's a tub. It's taking up half the space. It's 60 square feet if it's a big bathroom. So that's cheap. I'll retile the floor. I'll reglaze it. I'll replace the vanity, and I'll replace the toilet. The whole thing will cost me $2,000, and it looks fine. Now, I may not do now if it's a one bathroom house, I may not do that. If there's three bathrooms and this is in the basement or this is on the first floor and this is not the most important bathroom, and I can do this and save money. That's cheap. And even I just had a house in Lynbrook, and big bathroom on the second floor. That's really the main bathroom. The tile was okay, but borderline, right? All I did was change the vanity and change the toilet. I left even the shower, which was okay. And we sold it just fine. Actually, the guy who sold it to actually ripped up the bathroom, and he still hasn't sold it. But
you
bathrooms
wholesaled it or you wholetailed it?
We wholetailed. I mean, we did some work, wholetailed it to a guy who thought he could
Sold
get
to an
one.
investor.
Yeah. So you have to be looking at things like that, right? A vanity and a toilet are not expensive, right? Installation and the materials, you're talking about $1,000 usually, right? Toilet's $200, a vanity could be $300 depending on the size. It's not a lot of money. So that alone can change the whole look of a bathroom, right? Now, if there's a shower,
I did that yesterday.
it's the way to go. It's the way to go. Now, obviously, if the plumbing's not working or there's a real problem, there's no water pressure, you're going to need to rip the freaking tiles off anyway and fix that, right? Sometimes the shower body, which is the plumbing behind the wall, is messed up. And sometimes you can't fix it from the exterior and you need to rip up the tile. So if I have to rip up the tile for the shower, very often I'm just going to rip up all the tile. But that's really where the time comes in. It's time consuming to demo a bathroom, and it's time consuming to put new tile in a bathroom. So it becomes expensive, right? Also, very often, as we know, when you rip down any a wall, when you rip down sheetrock or tile, you find other things in there you never counted on, right? So I prefer not to rip down walls if I don't have to. But a whole bathroom to retile, it's not that expensive, right? I can probably do most bathrooms for $7,000, $8,000, maybe even less, $6,000, depending on the size. But it's just a time issue and getting the tile work right. And sometimes they screw up the tile, or so it's much better to do that on a superficial basis if you can, right? Everything has to be working properly, though. You can't. If there's plumbing issues, you got to get behind.
You got to get. So I actually just did this yesterday on a rental. Same shit though. It was I got 6 violations, because the building inspector loves me, right? So I had to fix that. But honestly, the property had some deferred maintenance, and I already had like a bunch of reserves ready to make the improvements. So we went in there, we put luxury vinyl plank in the bathroom floor because there was water damage. The vanity looked like it came from the Amityville horror house. So we took the vanity, the vanity had to go, so put a brand new vanity. But this is where the tub. So instead of retiling and putting tile in like a lower end rental property, I had my contractor just buy a shower base with just like a plastic shower base. Like there's no tile work, so you can't fuck it up. And unfortunately, we had to put a glass door in there because there was like a little shower stall. I called you about that, and I was pissed. Yeah. But
you told me it was a tub.
I didn't know. He does. See, I don't know what's going on. I just send the money and hope for the best, So when I saw the picture, I was like, that makes sense. Anyway, you can save a lot of money when you put especially if you're not dealing with high-end houses, you can put those plastic shower tubs in and people don't give a shit. At least for me, I've never had that be a problem because it's like Have you done that before?
I've never done it, but I thought about it a few situations, and it don't look as good, but certainly for a rental, it's fine. It's actually better for a rental because I have
Oh yeah,
a couple rentals where the guy who laid the tile didn't do a good job, and then after a while the grout crumbles, and then it leaks into the unit underneath. So that one piece surround thing is watertight, so it's better.
exactly. So like we did that, but that bathroom now almost looks brand new, and it wasn't the cheapest because I had to do it kind of fast, but
Sure.
it's not that. Yeah, there's not the. That's the funny thing you said with the bathroom, because I actually remember doing a house in Monroe, and we literally like gutted the basement, like did all this work, took the back of the house off, like built the deck, like it was like fucking stupid. We haven't made a lot of money on it, but it was just a really big rehab, and we did all this work, and we didn't replace or paint the cabinets, and they looked a little off, right? Because the whole house was like done up, and then the cabinets weren't painted, or they
In the kitchen.
in the kitchen. Yeah.
So let's talk about kitchens.
Yeah.
When you finish this, let's talk about kitchens because it's really important.
Yeah. So the cabinet, and then the bathroom we didn't do. So there were, we still made money on it, but it's really kind of an art and a science. So back to kitchens now, because that will sink your ship if you don't do that
So
right.
Kitchen has a few components in it, right? So there's appliances, there's cabinets, which is the most expensive part of the kitchens. There's countertops, and then there's flooring. Sometimes flooring is not an issue, but sometimes it is. Like I buy a lot of kitchens where all the tiles are broken in there, so I gotta rip up the floor. But sometimes I'll go into a kitchen and everything's good except ugly appliances. Right? I bought a house in Seaford where it was like that kitchen was beautiful, good new countertops, great cabinets. Like the refrigerator was like yellow and the stove was white and it just didn't match. So I just replaced the appliances. Appliances, I know they've gone up in price, but I can usually get a 4-piece appliance set, certainly 3-piece, 4-piece, the fourth being the microwave, for $2,000. So sometimes you can go into a kitchen.
Wow, that's cheap, man.
Sometimes you can go into a kitchen.
$2,500.
Spend $2,000-$2,500, and the kitchen looks amazing. But so that's one thing. So first thing to look at is appliances. Second is countertops. Very often, if the cabinetry is good, you can just replace the countertops. Countertops are not that expensive.
What do you usually pay? I just did this in California. It was fucking expensive because I put fancy shit in there.
I think it was $30 a square foot or something like that
But you got the fabricator, and then you got the actual material.
So I'm talking about for the installed. I don't pay a lot. There's a lot of these inexpensive Asian guys here in Queens, and they'll come in, I think, $30 a square foot for quartz or granite. And I would say the dumbest thing I see people do, and I see people do this all the time, is put in some cheap crap countertop. This Formica or some. It's not that much cheaper. Yeah. It's like you save yourself $800 for a piece of shit that's going to have to be replaced. If you put in granite or quartz, it never has to be replaced. It'll last forever, right? It doesn't have to be treated. That other stuff is so stupid because if you tell me you're saving $10,000, I understand. I had a 7-unit rental. And like, even then I said, well, if 7 units, it's a rental, maybe I should do cheaper. It ended up the savings was so minimal in the big scheme of things that we just put in granite. It didn't make sense not to. And I don't think there's ever a situation that I've ever seen, even if it's a low-end rental, where it doesn't pay just to put in a good countertop. It's foolish. And everybody, the tenants or the buyers love it. So why wouldn't you do it for $1,000, for $800? It's so ridiculous. So that's countertops. Sometimes you can't though. Sometimes I've intended to change the countertops and leave the cabinets, and when we took the countertops off, the cabinets fell apart. So sometimes that happens. You have to understand there's always that risk if the cabinets are bad, if they're water damage. But just changing countertops can change the whole way a kitchen looks.
That's our strategy, man. That's our favorite strategy.
And then flooring and backsplash also is usually not expensive and also changes it. Now, if you got to redo the cabinetry, it can get expensive. Again, I'm very fortunate. I got very, very inexpensive service providers for that. Guys who bring in these Chinese RTA ready to assemble. They come in little boxes and they pop them up and they stick them out. And they look great, and they're wood and they're soft closing doors and they're beautiful. White shaker or honey shakers. It's not that expensive, but still, it's always going to be thousands of dollars. So
How much can you do a kitchen for if you had to not gut the kitchen, but you had to put in countertops, appliances, and cabinets and floors with the gooseneck sinks, plumbing, garbage disposal, all that kind of shit?
I don't always do the gooseneck sinks, but I would say somewhere between, depending on the size. Cause like I'm selling a house now with a really small kitchen. It was like 10 grand for the kitchen. Got it pretty much taken out and redone without the floor. But usually bigger kitchens, 15 to 20.
That's about right. About 15 grand.
Yeah, it depends on the size.
Between 10 and 15.
Right, which is not a lot. It's not a lot and like we said, kitchens and bathrooms, that's money where you put in, you're going to get a return on your investment, right? You change a kitchen, it costs you 15 grand. You need a lot more than 15 grand for the new house. You're going to get 30, 40 more for the house minimum. So that's a good investment. But kitchens are interesting because a lot of people don't think about where to save money on kitchens. And I'm a big believer in doing less is more. You could always do more, always.
We paint the cabinets a lot, and people don't even fucking know. Like we just paint them.
Yeah, sometimes that works. It depends on what the cabinets are made of, but sometimes
you change the handles. You change the handles. You don't
change the hardware. Yeah, that's a big one. Change the hardware. I buy a lot of kitchens where there's no hardware. You just put hardware on, and it makes it look 10 times better.
Oh, they had to like go underneath and use the. I know.
Yeah, and you just put handles on, and the place looks shiny and clean.
Yeah, no, it's. There's so many things like where. Like I've done so much stupid shit where like we've fixed, like I did a house one time. This was the best deal I've done so far, but like we did a lot of work to make it financeable because there was mold everywhere and it was just kind of nasty. But like, we didn't do like the kitchen. Like it's just, I think when you're starting out and you're closing on properties, like there's just, if you listen to this podcast, hopefully you'll wise up. But if you don't, you're going to think like, oh, I gotta put in like this brand new, like, it's like, no, like even like with the mechanicals I want to cover next. Cause so the mechanicals, that's where you get dinged by the home inspectors. That's like every time I still get some home inspections once in a while, just to make sure that I didn't fuck up my rehab numbers. And that's where the inspectors come because they don't care about the kitchen or the bath. They care about the GFI outlets. They care about, but the mechanicals, like that's pretty much what they're doing. That's why you're paying them $300 just to go over there and complain about your mechanicals, which is understandable.
Right. So like I said, where I used to think that everybody wanted gas, it's not always true, but you need a boiler that works. So when I go into usually it's a basement around here, and I see the boiler, I'm going to know almost right away whether I need to replace it or not. If it's huge, I'm going to replace it. Right. I'm funny. I just went to a house this week where it had a really old, tremendous boiler, but
octopus boiler.
It looked sparkling clean. It wasn't, I forgot what the brand was, but it looked like someone had scraped it, cleaned it with a toothbrush. I'm like, this is the cleanest looking 50-year-old boiler I ever saw in my life. So people are obviously turned off by old, humongous boiler. This boiler, I promise you, was converted from coal to oil to gas. Now it was gas. It had been converted twice. I've never seen that before. It had a big door in the front to shovel coal into.
You could have camped out in that door if you wanted to.
It was crazy. Crazy. So like I'm thinking this has got to go. And the guy's like, well, it still works. You can keep it. I'm like, I can't sell a house with this thing in there. It takes up half the basement.
No one wants it, man.
Right. So you got to look at that. You got to look at electricals. You got to make sure those things are working, that everything's safe, and you got to make sure that a potential buyer won't have major objections to it. Regardless of what you do, you have to understand there are people who only want 200 amp breaker boxes, and the people who only want gas. There is, but you have to know your area to know that you only need one person who doesn't care about that to sell it to them. So you got to make sure electrical and plumbing works for sure. And if there's HVAC ducts, right? Sometimes a lot of the houses I don't have it, but if they do, you need a condenser unit that works, and you need an air handler that works. Sometimes that could be $4, $5, $6, $7 grand. Sometimes if you got to replace that, so everything has to be in good working order for sure, and the mechanicals.
Yeah. When you're doing a rehab now, not summarizing, but just kind of going into everything at once, what do you normally look to be? Let's say it's a normal house with no septic and all that kind of shit. Do you normally like to be in a rehab deal for under $60,000? If like, obviously, like that's arbitrary, but like
I look to be in it for under $6,000. So
if you're doing all that kind of shit, like if you're doing everything we mentioned.
Really depends on the size, and it depends on the market. What my ARV is, right? Like I said, if it's a
sub 400, sub 400 or 500 house in a like a subdivision, like, you go into like,
For a $400,000-500,000 house for 70 grand, I can probably do almost everything, right?
Yeah.
Unless there's roof issues and exterior issues, I can do an interior for 70 grand. Should have no problem with that.
Maybe less, honestly.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. But like I said, the point of this call is that every single house is different, right?
Yeah.
Even some of those houses have new bathrooms. Some of those houses have kitchens that are okay. You got to take that into account. But let's talk about flooring for a minute, because I buy a lot of houses with pet smells, right? I've already learned to discern the difference between cat urine and dog urine. And
what's the difference?
They smell different. I go in, I know right away. I go in, I go cats, right? And the lady goes, "How'd you know?" And what happens with a lot of these pets, especially dogs, cats too, is they pee on the floor or on the carpet, and it leaves, circular stain. And people that don't know what they're doing go in there and go, "Oh, I got to redo the floors. How do I get this out of here?" And that is a stupid thing to do. So what you do, you can do this on almost any floor, whether it's oak or whether it's pine. They're usually thick. You sand them, and then you stain them a dark color. You stain them like a chestnut, and you don't see any stains, and the smell is gone. And a house where I've honestly gone into houses where everybody said this has to be knocked down or whatever. And I'm like, I don't need to knock this house down. I can certainly make it good for a lot less than that. So almost anything could come out of an old wood floor. And if you really needed to, sometimes I buy houses where there's a roof leak, and the roof and the wood is all buckled. That has to be replaced.
That's got to go. Yeah.
But even installing wood, I think is, I don't know, $4 a square foot. That's $4 or $5 a square. It's not terrible, right? If I'm buying a small house that's got, $800 worth of wood, if I take out the bathrooms and the kitchens that have tile, it's not a crazy amount of money. But most of the houses I buy have hardwood floors in them, because that's the way they built them in the 50s and the 60s. And I can pretty much make any hardwood floor look beautiful for $1.50 a square foot. So it's not expensive. It's really not.
What are your thoughts on doing, that's with the hardwoods, because we do see a lot of that too. We don't really see that in San Diego. It's more of a Northeast thing, the hardwood, because a lot of these houses, like, they're fucking so old. They put stupid carpet in, and then I'll go in there and look underneath, and I'm like, well, there we go. Get the hardwood, sand and stain. What about LVP? I like putting LVP in my shit when I don't have hardwood, because the reason is because, especially a rental, but you can put laminate down. I've done that, but one of my contractors was probably drunk. He put it in backwards, but I've found the LVP, it's you can put it throughout the whole house. You can put it in the bathroom. You can put it, like, if you got a cape or something, or mostly a cape, you can put it down the whole damn house and the whole first floor.
LVP that you're saying about luxury vinyl.
Luxury vinyl plank. Yeah. Cause It's got that pad on it, and it's never going to leak. You're never going to get screwed.
Yeah, so if you find it that where it looks good and you get somebody who can install it right, it's fine. How much do you pay for that?
I usually, I don't know, it shows how much I know.
So I'll use laminate throughout the house also, because the laminates are good, and if they're thick, they come also with a pad, and it looks like wood.
It is. Isn't laminate wood?
No, laminate is not wood. It's a man-made material, but make it look like wood. So I'll use that. In fact, it might be what's called LVP in Florida, for all I know. But I think LVP is something different by us, where they have it's vinyl. But it's fine. I mean, it looks good. If it's installed right, it looks good. People cheap out and they use very thin laminate planks.
Yeah, that looks horrible.
And then it looks wavy and crappy. And you talk about a minor savings. It's such a small difference in price, even if you're putting a lot of it in, that it's stupid not to get expensive laminate planking. So it's an easy thing to do. I used to do all laminate on a lot of the houses where there wasn't wood, but I bought most of the stuff that I needed to work on lately has been wood that I can just refinish. I have a really good wood refinish guy. So he makes everything look great.
What about carpet? Do you do carpet in the bedrooms upstairs?
So it depends. If I don't have hardwood upstairs, sometimes I'll do carpet. Some people are like hate carpet.
I love carpet. I
like carpet in my bedrooms, but there are people who I'm allergic. It's an allergen. It's a problem. But I think it's usually not a deal breaker, even if someone hates carpet, because they know they can pull out that carpet and just put wood or some other material on there. That'll be fine. So carpet's easy. I used to do carpet at every second floor. I did on every stairway. It depends. Again, it depends on the situation. And really what's, in different areas. If it's a higher end area, I may not do carpet.
Can't do it. But the starter homes carpet, and I like it too, because like I'm in my room right now / office, and I don't need a little, like if this thing was like planks or whatever, like I would be echoing. Like if I go in my other room, it's like I can't make a podcast. So
yeah, so it's a sound. It's a sound deadener, which is good, especially good. Like if you have a 2-family, you want to do carpet on the second floor.
Yeah,
you want to do carpet in both because you don't want, like you said, you don't want the
stepping. If you get an up-down condo or something, it could really piss me off.
Right. There's a lot of buildings in New York where the floors are wood, but they require you, like it's in the lease, that you have to cover 75% of it with a rug or with carpet. So they want the sound to be reduced. Yeah.
Devin has a condo that he used to live in that it's a rental now, and he's on the bottom floor. And I could not understand how he lived there, because every time at 6 o'clock, it's like this. Not like gunshots going off. All right, maybe they were, right? It wasn't in the hood, but maybe it wasn't in Newburgh. But I'm like, dude, how do you live here? Like he made it look real nice, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, dude, like it's just the worst part of this place. So he eventually got the hell out of there, bought a 2-family and moved in there. But it was like the most irritating thing. I would be going upstairs with a pitchfork to the neighbors and being like, listen, like,
yeah. So I deal with that sometimes in my rentals where people are complaining about people upstairs. But what am I supposed to do? The kids are running around. The kids are running around. What am I going to tell them? They can't run around. Like what am I? It's an issue, right? If you're sensitive to that, don't move underneath somebody. Get in the top floor.
Get on the top floor, pay a premium to that landlord, So the floor, the floors are big. So here's another question I have for you with this, because I just did this and it ended up working out. I spent $900 to stage a condo, and this thing looks so sick. Fortunately, I get to call the stager today and say, hey, you can remove the stuff. But I
mean, $900 is really inexpensive.
Well, this is a 1-bed condo. It's 500 square feet, not 600.
It's still cheap. A lot of people charge minimums much more than that.
Really? Yeah, they were good. And they put nice shit in this thing. That's be a squatter's dream right now, this place.
Right.
They got some nice, silk sheets, Do you stage your stuff, or because this one in the staging?
So, totally. The first, I'd say first 20 or so deals, I staged them all. And then what I started realizing was that the market was so hot that I didn't need it. So I have 2 full houses worth of staging furniture that I have in storage.
Just for you.
That I have, but this is my general rule. I'll stage parts of it. So I believe, and obviously if the market cools off, I may stage everything. But so let's understand what staging is. Staging means you're putting furniture and decorating it on some level so that a potential buyer can envision themselves living there, right? That's the idea, right? The idea is that if a thing is empty and just walls, someone may not be able to visualize how they live in there. But again, the market's been so hot for so long, I haven't staged in a while, but I will stage 2 things. So small rooms, especially small bedrooms, I will put in a blow-up twin bed and a night table to show that someone can sleep in there, and undefined areas. So if I have a cape that doesn't have, let's say, a formal dining room, but it has an area near the kitchen with a fixture, I'll put in a table there so that they understand that this is the eating area, right? If that area isn't defined by walls, then I will stage it. Those are the 2 things I will stage. Small rooms so that people understand, hey, maybe this isn't as small as I think, because clearly this bed isn't here and it looks great. And undefined areas I will stage for that. Short of that, I won't. Because I felt because staging was a big pain in my ass. Paying for movers was a pain in the ass. Having stuff get ruined was a pain in the ass. Having squatters move into my fully staged house was a huge pain in the ass.
Man.
I had to go in there with a baseball bat and break my own stuff up to get them to leave. So it was a hassle for me. But when the market shifts, it may be something that I revisit again. You have to understand, if your house is staged, it does look better, and there are always going to be potential buyers who have limited vision, and they're just not going to understand where the television goes in the living room and where the couch goes. So I put up a couch. I have a fake TV that I put up against the wall, a big 40 and 50-inch fake TV, and somebody's doing the wall. Now in the beginning, I was paying stagers for this, but it was costing me thousands of dollars. It really was. Some of them were renting furniture. I had to pay for furniture rental. And I had other ones who weren't paying furniture rental, but every time they'd come, it was expensive. And then I have to de-stage and then stage it again. And then I'd stage it. It would go. And as soon as we went to contract, I'd de-stage. And then that contract would fall through and I have to bring the furniture.
Oh, yeah. You got to be careful.
It was a hassle. It was a hassle. So I believe we may get back to a point in our market where I need to stage again. But for now, I am okay only staging when those two issues come up.
Interesting. No, that's smart. I think it's a case by case thing, especially where you're depending on the house. Because I that was the first one I staged and it made sense. But
there were times where I staged to hide certain things, but I haven't done that in a while.
What would you hide? Like an example, what
I bought a house in America, and the floor was a little spongy, right? Like you give. So I fixed it in like one room. The other room was just gave a little. So I put a bed over that spot so no one would see it. So that was something I did. But in the end, I decided that if something is I really have to hide, I probably should just fix it and not hide it. But I have done things.
It depends on what it is.
Depends what it is for sure. But I haven't done that in a while. If there's an issue now, I'm gonna pay somebody to fix it.
God bless $500 credit in New York.
Yes, the property condition disclosure waiver. Right?
Does that mean you can't get sued down the line? Pretty much.
Yeah. What it means.
It's funny you say that. I told my buddy who's listing my flip in California. I told him about that because we were driving around and he was showing me his properties, and one of his properties, like the ADU, like looked like a marshmallow at a campfire, and I was like, "Dude, what the fuck?" And he's like, "Oh my god!" And he calls the realtor. He's like, "I don't want to get sued." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like,
what happened? It went on fire.
Something caught on fire.
Well, ADU is a additional dwelling unit, so it's like a accessory.
Yeah. That's a big thing in California. You do that in Long Island.
They wanted to make it legal in nationally or in New York. They haven't done it yet. It's like impossible for us to get a legal ADU here. Yeah,
so he did that, and it toasted up, and like he sold it, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to get sued." I'm like, "Why would you get sued?" He's like, "Oh, because California." And I'm like, so I found out in California, even though this is the New York show, the amount of disclosures I've had to sign just to sell this damn condo, it's like literally 75 pages of fuck. I'm like, how do these big flipper, like probably have a VA just click signing. So in New York, right. DocuSign. So in New York, the big benefit when you're selling retail products or wholesale, any product house, is that you give the seller a measly $500 credit property condition thing. And then after that that's in every contract for the most part.
It's in every closing statement now. So
every closing statement. It's one of the big benefits of doing rehabs in New York is because you really can't get dinged once that property is sold.
Can I tell you a story? This is a sad but true story. I did a house. I renovated it. There was a third bathroom in the basement that I never, ever used. Never turned anything on. Didn't touch it. No idea. It was a foreclosure. The people had really damaged the upper floors. Redid the house, made money on it. The guy called me like a month later. He goes, I tried to use the bathroom in the basement, and the previous owner poured cement into the waistline.
Oh, man.
And I felt bad, but I didn't know about it, right? It wasn't like I overlooked it. And he had no recourse to me. And he called his attorney to see if he could sue me, and he couldn't.
Well, I mean, you see, that's a big benefit to New York. People always shit on New York, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of things about New York that are great, and that's one of them. That's right.
You know, in other states, everybody's talking about I got to give a home warranty and all these things. In New York, it's like
home warranty.
Buyer beware.
Yeah, right. That's why do you think that is in New York? Because that's such a measly fucking credit. Because these houses are $700,000 and shit.
I don't know. Some attorney came up with it and decided it was a way for attorneys to make more money. That's pretty much the answer to everything in New York.
Yeah, that's genius. Well, we covered a lot of ground today. Obviously, people should re-listen to this, and this will probably be a popular show because it's a very tactical podcast on really, at the end of the day, you don't need to do stupid shit to make a lot of money rehabbing. You need to do the shit that is required. And like, for example, just to do a quick summary, if you're wholetailing a house, I want to cover that because I mentioned that at the beginning. A wholetail deal, the whole concept of a wholetail deal is when you're buying a property that is not a shithole and you're just putting it
Right.
on the market. So you
Well,
really just got
you might have to do something to it.
the mechanicals,
No,
stuff that's like if
depends.
it's required, like if let's say
Right. It depends. Every wholesale deal is different also, right? So I used to define a hotel deal as as me spending less than $5,000 on it. I ended up shifting that to maybe 10 because some things came up afterwards and I wanted to still call it a hotel. But it means you do minimal work. I bought a hotel deal in Northport where I did nothing but clean out. I paid $200 and I sold it and made decent money on it. So it depends. It really depends. But everybody defines a hotel deal differently. But most people don't even know what the hell we're talking about when we say hotel deal at all. But it's a deal that it's pretty good. You know, it doesn't need a lot of work. It needs minimal work or no work, and then you're just going to close on it and you're going to sell it to the retail market. It's a combination of wholesale and selling retail.
What do they say? Buy wholesale, sell retail. You know, because at the end of the day, like it's $5,000 for me. That's my rule. If it's more than $5,000, it turns into a rehab. It just depends on the rehab spectrum. Like I hope no one's listening to this. Well, I don't know. I bought a house and there's
Somewhere.
It was infested with cockroaches. Didn't know about that. So I got the cockroaches treated. And you know, I'm sure there's still a few in there. I'll be honest with you. I mean, listen, those things come and go.
They're dying soon.
Yeah, no, I did the right thing, right? I did the treatment and all that stuff. And but that property, I was planning my goal, right? It never goes perfect. My goal was to literally like the next day put a sign in the yard and boom, ended up having to put more than $10,000 worth of work. So that turned into a rehab, right? Unfortunately. And, you know, next thing you know, we're changing the toilet out. We're doing, you know, that shit. We're doing the paint jobs. We're getting the floor, you know, it's like, and then it is what it is. But so when you're doing these deals, you have to understand that most likely you're going to have to put a little bit more work than you thought into the property. Most likely. Like, I'm not saying you got to gut it, but like, don't be stubborn when it's like, oh, I was planning to only put $2,000. And it's like, well, listen, you put the $10,000 in, your butt is going to be covered when you sell it. But if you cheap out or don't have the money, you really got to know what you're doing getting into these deals.
Sure. A lot of hotel deals do lead to rehabs, right? Ideally, when I buy a property, I'm buying it cheap enough that I can wholesale it.
Yeah.
I can't wholesale it. Very often I have an option to wholesale it. Obviously not if it's a disaster. And then theoretically, if I can't sell it for what I need to at a hotel, I can go and do the rehab and finish it up and then hopefully make my money there. Right. Option. Buying properties with options like that lets me sleep at night and gives me
100%. Well, actually, we'll tease the listeners because our next episode, we're going to talk about a strategy that is pretty popular now. It's new. We're not experts in it, but we're figuring out as we go. So we're going to cover our knowledge so far. So I hope everyone,
Novations.
Yeah, the novations, exactly. The new shiny object in the real estate flipping business. So we're going to cover that next episode. So we'll keep the listeners a little antsy and anxious to hear what we're going to talk about. Hope everyone got value today. If they can leave a review on iTunes and Spotify and share the show. That's how we get this into the ears of more listeners. It actually grows every week, which is weird because this is a very niche podcast.
Right.
So yeah, we like to see the downloads going up, and they are. So we're going to keep going hard here at the New York Real Estate Show. If you got value, once again, review it, share it, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.